On to business then. Records on Wall Street, even though investors remain pretty torn between vaccine-fueled optimism and fears over a surge in inflation. The recovery is expected to bring with it. Can we bring in the US markets? Here they come. There you go. You can see some up on the Dow Jones, just slight dips on the S&P and the Nasdaq. Asian markets, they've been extending gains following that US bounce, even though one market analyst is already warning that China is starting to raise the prices of some goods, warning about inflation. As you can see, there are much bigger rises there on the Asian markets, well over 1% on the Kospi in Seoul, for example. Now, it's now 24 hours since the Ever Given shipping container was first pulled off the side of the Suez Canal before being refloated completely later in the day. Now, the ship is longer than the Eiffel Tower is tall. On average, around 50 ships cross the channel every single day, carrying billions, of course, in cargo. So what effect has the week-long disruption had? Ellen Gainsford reports.
After a mammoth rescue effort, the Ever Given is once again on the move. The giant container ship had become wedged in the Suez Canal, blocking traffic in one of the world's most important shipping channels, causing a backlog of more than 420 boats. The incident has highlighted the vulnerability of global supply chains.
We've gone to this fragile, just-in-time shipping. Now, we used to have big warehouses in all the countries where the factories pulled supplies from the warehouses, and the warehouses were filled and then allowed to deplete. Now these floating ships are the warehouse.
In just under a week, it's caused a colossal amount of disruption. The blockage had held up an estimated $9.6 billion worth of cargo each day, including around 1 million barrels of oil. Meanwhile, Egypt has lost out on around $12 to $14 million in daily revenues from shipping tolls. The canal's remote location complicated the salvage operation.
The most important characteristics of the environment is that it's in relative isolation. The difficulty is you're really in the middle of nowhere, stuck with a vessel, and no equipment nearby. So that's the big challenge, really.
Around 12% of daily global trade goes through the Suez Canal, which allows ships to travel between Asia and Europe without having to circumnavigate Africa.
Now, as we said earlier, the French government is considering still tougher restrictions to slow the spread of COVID-19. But with much of the country, including Paris, already under a third lockdown, there's growing confusion and anger as well over which stores are allowed to continue operating. Ellen Gainsford has the story.
This toy shop has to close, but this video game store is allowed to stay open. Critics say there's no rhyme nor reason to the French government's latest lockdown rules.
On aurait le droit d'aller chez le coiffeur, acheter des fleurs, aller acheter des jeux vidéo et pourquoi pas juste des jouets, un petit cadeau pour l'anniversaire de son enfant, de son petit enfant. C'est frustrant.
Many customers are also confused.
Pas logique que des jeux vidéo soient ouverts et que des magasins de jouets soient fermés, non? C'est clair que là, je vois pas où est la logique.
Des jeux éducatifs pour les enfants, ça devrait être essentiel, puisque les enfants, quand vous les avez à la maison, il faut pouvoir les occuper.
Video game shops are allowed to stay open as they're considered part of the technology sector, along with bookshops, record stores, plant shops and DIY stores, among others. While children's outfits can be sold in supermarkets, down the street, this clothes shop for kids has to close. Click and collect shopping isn't attracting as many customers.
C'est à peu près 10% dans le meilleur des cas. On demande la réouverture de nos magasins destinés à l'univers de l'enfant. Nous le ferons avec la plus grande précaution. Nous le ferons, si nous pouvons le faire, dans un premier temps dans les centres-villes.
But the French economy minister has said he won't budge on the measures.
Dans la liste des commerces fermés ou autorisés à ouvrir ne changera pas.
Around 90,000 French businesses must close for at least the next 3 weeks. And the government may have still stricter restrictions up its sleeve.